Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for Civil 3D 2014 Pressure Networks. Next slide. This is, excuse me, I haven't done a webinar for a while. This is Kelly Merrill. I'm the AEC specialist, and Brian Hailey is our technical specialist.
Welcome, everybody. Just to start off a little bit here, I want to make sure that everybody can hear me. Everybody's familiar with the interface here. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type your questions in. We got a lot to cover today, so I'm not sure how much we'll be able to answer questions, but definitely type them in and we'll see what we can do. One thing I would like everybody to do, if you wouldn't mind, would you raise your hands for me? That way I can make sure that everybody's hearing me well. All right, looks like some people can hear me, so if the rest of you can't hear me, well then you shouldn't be raising your hand. All right, excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. Again, if you have any questions, make sure you type them in. I'm going to go ahead and put everybody's hands down now. All right. So, Kelly, would you like to talk about some of our upcoming events here?
Sure. Just a couple of announcements. We have our Customer Appreciation Day, June 14th. We'll be covering Autodesk Cloud strategies. You can see everything there, 3D printing, 3D scanning, and so forth. This will be held at the Doubletree up here at 120th and I-25. Lynn Allen, as you can see, will be one of our guest speakers, along with Abjit, Sean Hurley, Pete Southwood will be featuring the InfraWorks, and Scott Main, Construction Technologies. Next slide. Okay, and then Phil Bernstein, Vice President of Autodesk, will also be talking about strategic industry relations. So we hope you can all attend that. We look forward to seeing you.
All right, so let's get rid of all this promotional stuff. Let's get down to the agenda here. What are we going to be talking about today? Well, we're going to be talking pressure networks. So when we're dealing with pressure networks, there's a few things that we really need to focus on. First of all, parts list. You need to create your parts list, set up your parts list, just like you did with pipe networks. The horizontal layout. You then go in and you lay out your pipes horizontally, right? You get them laid out, you put in your horizontal bends, you put in your pipes the way you want them to be, and then you need to get into the vertical layout. So I want to get in here, I want to make sure that things are laid out correctly vertically as well as horizontally. And then we can also come in and do a criteria validation. Excuse me. So as you're laying out pipes, I'm sure most of you know, you can put in, it doesn't have to be exactly a 45-degree bend. There's a little bit of a deflection that's allowed when you're putting in your pipes. So is the deflection too big? Is it just right? These sorts of things. And we've got the tools where we can go through and evaluate the criteria. Before I get too much further in here, I want to get a little bit of information from you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a poll. So first off, what version of Civil 3D are you using? So I could have sworn I updated this slide to 2014. So maybe you're brand new to Civil 3D. Maybe you're using, if you're using 2013 or 2014, go ahead and mark the 2013 there. If you're doing something earlier, go ahead and do that as well. All right. Looks like most people have voted. Let me go ahead and share the results here. Kind of what I expected. Most people are up on 2013. There's a few stragglers. Ooh, 2010 or earlier. Ouch. There's a lot of new improvements since 2010. I'd highly recommend you take a look at it. I understand some people can't upgrade because of certain circumstances, but I'd highly recommend it. All right, next thing I'm kind of curious about. Do you have the infrastructure design suite? So most of the people here, if you're using Civil 3D, you probably have the premium version. The standard version does not have Civil 3D. And just so everybody knows, if you didn't know this already, if you have Civil 3D and it's on subscription, you will be upgraded to the premium version of the Infrastructure Design Suite. There is the option to opt out of it if you don't want it, but it's only an additional $50 a month in subscription costs, around that. So I'd highly recommend you at least look into it. Oops. Go ahead and close that. And share the results here. So it looks like about half people are on the suites. That's excellent. Right? It's good to see that. All right. So how would you rate your skills in Civil 3D? Is this something you're brand new to? Just kind of checking it out, a beginner, an intermediate, you know it really well, or maybe you think you come up here and do this webinar yourself. Right? Maybe you're an expert. Yeah, I'll share the results here. And oh good, I've still got my job. So it looks like most people are in the intermediate area. That's good to see. No brand new users. And I'll do one more. No, never mind. How did these not get updated? Anyways, so yeah, I'll do this last one. Strike out 2013, make that a 2014. Are you planning on upgrading to Civil 3D 2014 anytime soon? And we'll go ahead and close that. And we'll share the results. Looks like quite a few people are already on 2014. Excellent. Some people are planning on doing it pretty soon. There's a few stragglers that say, no, we're not going to upgrade. So if you're not on 2013 or 2014, and you're not planning on upgrading to 2013 or 2014, then you're not going to get a whole lot out of this webinar because the pressure network tools are brand new to 2014. All right. So let me go ahead and close that. And how about we just abandon the PowerPoints now and get into the software? And the cheers go up through the crowd. All right, but before I do, Christopher has a quick question. Christopher says he hasn't received his 2014 discs yet. Should they have shipped? No, they will not ship unless you actually go in and request the media. 2014 is a download version, so you'll need to go to your subscription website and download the software. There is an option someplace, somewhere, I'm not exactly sure where, that you can actually get in and request the discs, but you have to do that specifically. All right, so here's a file. This is just one of the tutorial files that I kind of am planning on using. I don't have a design ground in here. We're going to be placing pipes along the existing ground, so there's quite a bit of relief in here, so it should be interesting. And I've got the center line of my road, and what I've done is I've created a polyline that is basically where I want my pipes to be laid out to. Now, as you can see, I went through and I set it up so it's offset from the center line a specific distance, minimum distance from the center line. It doesn't extend beyond this back red line here. So I've kind of fit this in where I want my design to be. Now, before I start creating any sort of pipes in Civil 3D, really the first thing you need to do is set up your parts list. Just like with the pipe networks, where we're doing the gravity stuff, with the pressure networks, you also need to set up a parts list. So under my Settings tab, Pressure Network, Parts List. This is where I can access all my parts list. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brand new parts list. I already have one in here called Water. That's the one I'm going to be using this presentation, but I'm going to go create a brand new parts list here, just so we can see the process and how it's done. Like anything else in Civil 3D, the Information tab, give it a name, so I'll call this one Water Demo. And then we go through the tabs and we add the different sizes. So I go to the pressure pipes, right-click on New Parts List, and I add material. Based off of the catalog, you'll be presented with all the different materials here. This particular catalog only has ductile iron pipe. It's really easy to add PVC pipe if you want PVC pipe in here as well. But I'm just going to use ductile iron. So I select OK, expand out my parts list now, and now I have the ductile iron part family. Right-click on the part family, I can add a size. Add the size, and based off of the part catalog, here are the different sizes that are available to me. So I'm interested in 8-inch ductile iron pipe. So I'll choose the 8-inch. The outer diameter, right, as you can see, it fills that in for me automatically based off of the part catalog. The cut length. So as I'm doing vertical bends, horizontal bends, what length of pipe do I have so it can calculate the different things. The allowable deflection. So again, whenever you have two pipes that join together, they don't have to be straight on. There's a little bit of allowable deflection at each one of the joints. What is the deflection that you're allowed to have for this particular pipe? So it shows you the allowable deflection here. So you can set that to whatever you want. And then also, if you're going to be doing a horizontal curve, based off of your cut length, your allowable deflection, what's the minimum flex radius that you can have for a horizontally curved pipe? So you set all the different values, select OK, and it adds the pipe to the parts list. So now I actually have a pipe in the parts list. And you would just continue this for all the different sizes of waterline that, or whatever it is you're modeling to the network. Assign a style. All right, so you would choose an appropriate style, just like you would in pressure networks, right? And render material. And new in 2014, yes, we finally have it. We have pay items for pressure networks. So you can add a pay item to your pressure network. So how much 8-inch line do I have? This is where the pay items can be. So you can load a master pay item file. There's a sample one that comes with Civil 3D. So I'll go to my CSV file here. And then it shows me all these different pay items. Now we're not going to get into the pay items, but this is definitely something you can do. So I haven't even actually looked at this. See if we got any water. See, this is an 8-inch water line, so we'll choose a 8-inch water line ductile iron. And you can add that to the parts list. The fittings. So fittings, these are between the pipes, right? So connecting one pipe to another pipe. So I'll add a type. This particular parts list has 3 different types: crosses, elbows, and T's. There are other parts lists that come with Civil 3D that have more. They have caps and elbow or reducers and all sorts of other things. But in this case, I'm just going to use, for an example, an elbow. So I'll choose elbow. Right-click on the part family and add a size. Now likewise, you come in here, specify the bend angle. So I want to put in a 45-degree bend. And since this is an 8-inch line, I would choose the 8-inch by 8-inch. And again, I would put in the allowable deflection here. Select OK. And once again, it adds it to the parts family, or to the parts list. All right. Again, assign a style, a render material, and a pay item. And then you can repeat the process for the appurtenances. Appurtenances such as gate valves, fire hydrants, those types of things. And you can add these in as well. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that. And that's how you go about building up your parts list. Now, as I mentioned before, Civil 3D does come with several different parts lists. The one that I'm using, well, which one is it? So if you come to your Modify Pipe Networks, you can change your network catalog. And so as you can see, Civil 3D, oops, I went to pipe networks, not pressure networks, my bad. Pressure network, pressure pipe network, I can change my catalog. This will work better. So as you can see, Civil 3D comes with 3 different catalogs here. I was playing around, I created this test one, so you guys won't have the test. But we have push-on, mechanical, and flange. So I'm using the push-on ones here. So once you get your parts list created, now you can come in and start modeling your pipe network itself, the pressure network. Now, this is great. I think this is awesome. Let me go create a pressure network here real quick. So I'll go pipe network, pressure network creation tools. All right, give it a name. So this is going to be water, parts list, the layers. So these are going to all be set up in your drawing settings. The surface, what surface do you want to reference? The existing ground, the alignment. I wanted this to follow along, use Maple Road. I'm not going to label anything. Very, very similar to pipe networks, right? What's different is, well, we don't get the little toolbar. This is now incorporated into the rivet. So up here and along the top, we have our rivet. So as I'm laying this out, well, how much cover do you want on top of the pipe? Colorado, right? We want 5.5 feet, 5 feet, 4.5 feet, whatever value you need to use here. You would just simply put that in. All right, as you're creating the pipes, what size pipe do you want? Well, I want to use 8-inch pipes. And my fittings, I'm going to use an 8-inch 11 1/4 or whatever it is. And also for my pertinences. So I can set these different values. Now, what's really cool is if I come over here and I choose pipes and bends, and let me just kind of play over here a little bit. As I pick my first point, it starts my pipe. Pick my second point, it creates the pipe, and now I can come in here, and as you can see, it snaps to those specific angles that I have available up here for 8-inch water. So if I didn't have an 8-inch 11 1/4 bend, I wouldn't have this angle point here. And I can come in here and I can simply start drawing in based off of those angles, which is really cool. I mean, look, it even puts in the little fitting for it. It's all drawn correctly and everything. All right, and this is really cool. I love this. This is great for demos because it really impresses people. Ooh, ah. Unfortunately, this is exactly those angles. There is no play available in these angles. So if you're trying to follow along the center line of an existing road or trying to parallel an existing utility, most likely that's not exactly at these angles. And so this tool isn't all that helpful in most situations. Some situations you might find it really helpful, but in most situations I find it to not be as cool as I originally hoped it would be. Now what I like to do, as I mentioned before, I already have a polyline in here. Most of your designs are going to start with something along these lines. I've got the center line of my road. I go offset, I figure out where I'm going to be placing all my bends and everything. And then you start drawing on top of this. Now what I've done just to make my life a little bit easier is I went through and I dimensioned all the angles just to give myself an idea of what bends I need to put in here. All right, so there's a 13-degree turn, there's a 27, another 13-degree turn. And so I've come through here and I've labeled all of my bends here. And so what I like to do is I like to say, okay, well this is a 23-degree bend. What's the closest fitting I have to 23 degrees? Well, that's going to be a 22.5-degree elbow. I'm using 8-inch, so I'm going to choose 8-inch 22.5-degree elbow. And then I will add the fitting in myself before I start drawing any pipes. So if you're familiar with the pipe networks, this is similar to structures only, right? So I'll add in the fitting, and I'll just snap to those locations. So there's a 22.5-degree bend. There's another 22.5-degree bend. I'll come down here. That's probably an 11 1/4, right? 13 degrees. Here's 27 degrees, so I'll put in a 22.5-degree bend here. And I just keep working my way around. So I go through and I put in all my 22.5-degree bends. I'll then come in and I'll put in my 11 1/4-degree bends. All right, so, oops. So there's an 11 1/4-degree bend. Now the rotation isn't set yet. So I'll just come in here now, grab each one of those fittings, and rotate it so it matches along those polylines. Just using that little grip to rotate it. And again, I don't have to be real exact because, well, this isn't an exact 22.5 degree bend on this polyline, so I'm just getting it close. And I'm not going to do the entire length right now just because of you don't want to get bored sitting here watching me do this. All right, so I'll do this last one here as well. So I like to come in, I like to put in my fittings first, and then after I get my fittings in, I will then come in and add in my pipes. Now the way I like to add my pipes is simply, well, first of all, make sure that you've got the right size set up here. Make sure you've got the right cover set, so it's still 5.5 feet of cover. And then I will choose, well, I'm not going to choose anything off the ribbon. I'm simply going to come down here and grab the fitting. And if you notice, as I zoom in here, at the ends I have two little plus symbols. All right, so I grab the plus symbol and I'm now able to draw off the end of that pipe. And based off of that allowable deflection, so I put a 3 degrees deflection in here, I can now place this pipe wherever I need it to go. And I want it to end right there. Now because I didn't connect to another fitting, it gives me that compass again. So I can then continue on and do those exact angles if I need to. All right, I'll just go ahead and cancel out of that. I'll grab that same fitting again, hit the other little plus symbol, and now I can continue off the other direction. And you can see as I drew this, I'm within that allowable deflection. So I'll now simply mouse over this next fitting. I get that same little glyph that we saw with the pipe networks. I'll left click when I see it, and it connects that pipe to that fitting. And then I'll just continue this process connecting all my fittings. Connect that fitting, connect that fitting, all right, and then I just continue my way around. And then I would connect to this last one, but I didn't put that in there. So as far as laying things out horizontally, it's pretty straightforward. Now here's an example. I want to put in a T here. So I can come in here, I want to put in a 6-inch T, an 8-inch by 6-inch T. So I'm going to come down here to my 8-inch by 6-inch T, and I'm going to add the fitting. And all I have to do is mouse over the pipe, left click, and it puts the fitting in there for me. Oh no, it's going the wrong direction. That's okay. Simply grab the fitting and flip it. And it'll flip over to the other side, again using one of those little grips. Now this is going to be a 6-inch pipe. If I simply hit the plus symbol here, what happens is it puts in an 8-inch pipe, which as you can see doesn't fit. So whenever you're using a little plus, you need to make sure that you set the correct pipe size up top here. So I'm going to set that to a 6-inch pipe, grab the fitting again, and now I can continue laying out my pipe here. I probably should have put that on the other side of the alignment because the sanitary sewer is in the way, right? Not a big deal. I grab that T, and I can simply, using these little slide grips, I can slide this along the pipe. I want to slide it to about there. And now I can start drafting off here. I'll come up to here, I'll put in a bend, and I'm just going to, so as you can see, it'd be nice to be able to put in some of those other deflections. I'm just going to eyeball something here. It's not going to be real pretty, but I just want to put something in.
Brian Tomasi has a question.
Okay, somebody has a question. Go for it.
Okay, this is from Brian Tomasi. Can you combine multiple bends together to get an odd angle? For instance, 67.5 degree bend?
That's a really good question. And the answer is yes. So I want to put in a 67.5 degree bend. All right, so that's a 45 plus 22.5. So I can put in an 8-inch, 22.5 degree bend, add the fitting, and there's my fitting. So I had to rotate it so it lines up with the pipe that's coming in. All right, so my pipe is coming in here. Let me set that to an 8-inch pipe. That's a really good question, by the way. All right.
Yeah, Brian's always trying to stump you. Right?
He is. Right? And now what I can do is I can say, hey, now I want to put in a 11¼ degree bend. And I want to attach it to this bend here. Oops. Add fitting. All right. So I can now combine these into an odd, which is basically the way they're going to be built in the field. Now, some of the other parts lists actually, for example, the mechanical joint parts list, they have parts that have the bells on both ends and then just a pipe and a bell. So you can combine them a little bit easier using that, but so as you can see, they overlap here in this case. So these particular fittings don't really lend themselves to this process, but there are some fittings that do. So what I do in this case, I'd probably just put in a short little pipe, something along those lines, and then I would add in my 11¼ degree bend off the end of the pipe there. So using the push-on pipes, this is probably more along the lines of the way it's going to be built out in the field. And then I can continue my pipes off the end of that. Oh, and by the way, this is all 3D. So there's my pipe parts there. So again, I could then connect this 6-inch pipe back into another T over here. I haven't modeled the T over here, the rest of the line over there, so there's really nothing to connect into. But you could simply do the same process, come add a fitting of a T down here, and then just use the grips to continue that on. Same exact process. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and close out of this drawing. Because I didn't want to spend all the time letting you guys watch me model it, I went through and I already modeled it. So let me turn off these dimensions here. So as you can see, I've got this entire road modeled here. I didn't do anything along this road, right? But I did do the rest of the road. And now it's time to start doing the vertical design. So I want to create an alignment along my pipe lines. Now I could simply display these pipes in the profile for the center line of my road here. Some people like to do that, some people don't. If you want to, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In this case, I'm actually going to create an alignment along the center of the pipe. So under my alignment tools, there's an option to create alignment from pressure network. So I'm going to go ahead and run this tool here. Where do you want it to start? Well, I want it to start there. Where do you want it to end? Well, I want to come all the way around to the end. I want it to end over here. And it selects everything in between. So I select enter. What site do you want to put it in? You should never put a utility alignment in a site under any circumstances. Give the alignment an A name, so this will be water A or whatever you want to call it, right? Starting station, all that same fun stuff. I'll just use the basic style. The labels, I just want the stations. I don't want PC, PT, those types of things. And I do want to create the profile and profile view. So I'll make sure I'll leave that toggled on, select OK. All right, which alignment, which surface? Again, I only have the existing ground surface, so I'm just going to go ahead and add in the existing ground surface. I'll draw it in the profile, and just like the tool with the pipe networks, if I come over here to the profile display options, first of all, let me change my labels here. I don't want any labels on my profile. If I come to the pressure network options, just the pipes that I use to create the alignment will be drawn in the profile view, which in this case is all of them. All right, so I'll go ahead and create my profile view, pick a point in my drawing, and here's my profile. Now I've got an issue. So what happened when I first created this particular pipe network, when I created one of the bends, I missed. So when I placed the bend in the drawing, I I missed my snap. I meant to snap to the end of the line, but I missed. Or I snapped to something wrong. And so what I did is I took it and I moved it back to the correct location. And so I snapped it, I grip edited it from something that was at the elevation of the surface down to an elevation 0. And so that's why we have this spike down here. I could have changed it, but this is something you'll see, so I wanted to show you how easy it is to fix. Basically, all I have to do is grab that bend. And then I can grab the grip, and I can put it at whatever elevation I want. So I think right here is going to be a good elevation, and it places it back up there for me. Really simple to do. All right. And here I am in my profile. And in this case, I put the cover at 3.5 feet. I didn't do that at 5 feet, but that's okay. So as we can see, as we're coming along, most of this looks good. There's a couple areas that, we need to do something. So this area here, it's probably too shallow. This area here is probably too deep. So what we can do is we can tell the pipe, hey, I want you to follow the surface. So if I grab this pipe here, I can go to my, well, if you're familiar with the pipe tools, you'll notice that we have the edit pipe network, right? Well, that only brings up the one toolbar. When we're dealing with pressure networks, we actually have two different options. We can edit the plan layout tools, and we can also use the profile layout tools. So in this case, I want to be editing things in the profile. I'm going to go to the profile layout tools. What do I want to do? Well, I want this pipe to follow the surface. So I'm going to tell it to follow the surface. Now this is going to ask for a range. In this case, I want just this pipe. The rest of the pipes are close enough. I want just this pipe to do it, so I'll select this pipe. And then it's going to ask me for the depth below the surface. So I'm going to put in a depth of 3 feet. And it now follows the surface. And this distance between these pipe joints here is set up in the parts list as 18 feet or 20 feet or whatever you need it to be. All right, let's take a quick look at the plan view. If you notice, you get all these exclamation points. Ooh, what are these exclamation points? Well, basically, this is the alignment. The alignment is saying, hey, where I enter the fitting, it actually puts a curve in the fitting. And it's telling me, hey, the curve and the line here, they're not tangent. Which, honestly, I don't care about. So if you're ever working with pressure networks and you see all these exclamation points come up after you create a profile, that's all it is. It's the alignment. It's telling you, hey, the tangency violation. But you can just go grab your alignment, edit the style, and either turn off the warning symbol. I don't want to see the warnings. Or you could go to your alignment properties and where is that? Oh, I don't have a design control turned on. This is a miscellaneous alignment. It doesn't have the option to do design controls. So if I set this to a center line, I now have my design criteria tab. And I can tell it, hey, don't check for tangency between elements. And then I can go change my style back to miscellaneous. And now I don't have those annoying exclamation points anywhere.
Here's a question from Robert Darrow. Does the profile generation also consider the joint deflection?
That's a really good question. Does the profile generation also consider the joint deflection? Yes, it does. And we'll see that here in just a minute. So we're going through, we're doing the horizontal layout. We've created the profile. Now let's come in here and start doing some edits to the profile in the profile view. Now, one thing that I always like to do whenever I'm dealing with, I'm doing waterline design in a profile view, it's kind of hard for me to work in an exaggerated profile. It just sometimes gets difficult. So I'm going to edit this profile view style here real quick. Oops, wrong button. And I'm just going to set the exaggeration down to 1. So I've lost all the exaggeration here. right, let's see. Right here. Let's do this one here. Right here, I've got an issue. What's my issue? I have another utility right there. I can't move this utility. It's a 64-inch natural gas pipeline. I don't know. I'm making something up here. But it's something that we need to go around. So I can't just simply go underneath. I can't go through it. I need to go underneath it. So this circle represents the area that I can't have my pipe within. So there's another pipe that's in here. And this is the outside. This is 18 inches below the pipe, and that's where I need to go. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in my crossing. All right, so I'm just going to draw a polyline from there to there. I'm going to go to the center, and let's see, we'll go perpendicular to there. All right? So this is now tangent. And go ahead and maybe lengthen this up a little bit here. I don't know. That total length, 6 feet. Something along those lines. All right, I'll go ahead and copy this. I'm basically just drawing in my crossing. So I'll go ahead and rotate this 45 degrees here. And I'll rotate this one 45 degrees here. So that's basically where I want the top of my pipe to be. And so in the profile, I'm going to break the pipe. So now I need to get into my profile editing tools again. Actually, I already have them up, so I'll just switch over to that tab. And I'm going to break the pipe. So I choose break pipe, and I'm going to break the pipe at those two intersections. And then I want to get rid of this piece of pipe in here because I actually want to draw in bends and all of that fun stuff as I'm going through here. Now if I just simply grab this pipe and I use the erase command, I didn't erase the pipe. I erased the pipe out of the profile view. The pipe still exists in plan view. And so if I try to come in here and draw in another pipe in the profile view, it's basically going to say, hey, there's already a pipe there. You can't do that. So instead of using the erase command, I'm going to use the delete part command. This will actually remove the part from the network. And now I'm simply going to draw in my pipe network. I'm going to choose a 6-inch, or rather an 8-inch pipe. I'm going to do 8-inch 45-degree bends. You don't really need to worry about this because I'm doing pipes and bends. And I'm doing this in the profile view. So it's going to ask, well, where do you want to start? Well, I want to start over here. Where do you want to end? I want to end over here. So basically what this said is like, okay, following along that alignment, where do you want to start and where do you want to end? First pressure point. I want to start right there. And now as you can see, I get that same compass. So I want to come down 45 degrees to there. Come straight across to there. And then back up to there. And for whatever reason, I haven't figured this out yet, it doesn't like to put in the fitting there for me. All right, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pull these pipes back, and I'm manually going to put in my own fitting. I'm just simply going to put in an 8-inch 45-degree bend. I'll add my bend. Where do I want it? I want to add it to the end of this pipe here. In which direction is it going? Is it going to go up or is it going to go down? So in this case, it's going to go clockwise. So I choose clockwise. It puts in my fitting. And now I can connect this pipe to this fitting, and I'm good to go. And so we put this in horizontally. And I got some issues here. I probably should have done something different. But that's okay. This is the process. And if I go look at my plan view, So I was about station 27. There's my lowering. So if I grab all these parts here, and I take this off into a 3D view, you can see it puts the fittings in based off of the elevations. I didn't have to tell it, hey, these are vertical bends. It just put in a 45-degree bend for me. So Robert, you're asking about, does it take into account the vertical deflection? Yes, it does.
Here's a question from Christopher Hale. In profile, is it always top of pipe, or can you do center line or bottom also?
You can design to whatever you like, Christopher. You can design to the top, the bottom. Basically, when I was working in the profile, I wasn't designing to anything. Where is that? Where did I do that? Right there. So if I delete these parts, right, and I come in here and I say, hey, I want to pipes and bends. Say I want to connect to there, and now I want to go to there, and I want to start there. Basically, it's not designing to anything. It's just putting in the different angles. It's going to connect to that one, and what angle do I want to put it in at? So that's basically what it's doing.
Okay, here's another question from Brian Tomasi. Is there a way to clean up the style in the plan view so it will not plot out like a blob?
Not plot out like a blob. Yeah, so the question is, in the plan view, let me undo that here real quick. Let me get back my pipes back. You don't think that'll plot nicely? Come on, really? Yeah, absolutely. It's just a style. You can put in whatever style you like. So this fitting has a style. If you go to the fitting properties, you can assign whatever style you like. So you can go create your own style, and you can display whatever block you want for the style. So maybe you have a style for vertical bends. You simply assign that style to those fittings, and you're good to go. Yeah, even the horizontal bends, if you're not plotting this in great detail, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, so you probably want to assign a style to the parts so that it does display the way you want them to display. All right. Last thing I want to do is I want to double check and make sure that this fitting isn't in violation of the criteria. So I'm going to grab the fitting, and I'm going to do a design check. And here are the different things we can check. Do you want to check the deflection? So the deflection at the joints. Do you want to check the diameter? Make sure that an 8-inch pipe is coming out of an 8-inch fitting, that we don't have an 8-inch pipe connecting to a 6-inch pipe. Make sure there's no open connections or radius of curvature. So if I put a curved pipe in, I want to make sure it's not in violation of the design. And as you can see, this one didn't have any violations. And if I do the same thing to this pipe, right, so I grab the pipe, not the alignment, the pipe, and I do this my design check, you'll see I get a warning symbol here at the end. Why? It's an open connection. It's not connected to anything. So I can always come in here, add a T or whatever it is, a cap, plug, whatever it is I need, and it'll plug that up for me. Now let's see if I can find one that actually, and you can do this to a range, so I can come in here and I can, let's see, I want to do my design checks, but I want to do it to a range, so I run, come on. Oops. Try this one more time. Design check. Cancel out of that. Enter, repeat the last command, and let's see, let's just do the designs from there to, say, there. And so you can see this particular bend has 2 warnings. What are the warnings? Let's go find out. Again, if I mouse over the symbol, it'll tell me what the problem is. So according to the criteria, our maximum deflection is 3 degrees. That's part of my parts list. In this case, the bend deflection is 3.28. Right? Why is it 3.28? Well, most likely, if I pull this thing off into an object viewer and I go to like a side view, you can see there's quite a bit of elevation deflection here. And so it actually takes into account the elevation deflection here as well. So that's why we're getting the issue here. So
I have another question for you.
Yep.
From Mark. Can you do a design check on the entire network?
Can you do a design check on the entire network? No, you have to tell it where to start and where to end. So it's along the path. But if my network doesn't have any branches, then yeah, I can. It's kind of along the same lines as applying the rules in a pipe network. You select the start, you select the end, and then it'll go from there. And so that's pressure networks. One thing I did want to point out here real quick. I forgot to mention this. I was going to show this off earlier. As you can see, I've got my alignment through here. As it goes through the fitting, it actually puts a curve through the fitting where the fitting curves. Right? If I decide to make a change to my design, so this fitting, it didn't quite work well here. If I go ahead and change location of the fitting, what you'll notice is the alignment goes along for the ride. So as I make changes to my design, the alignment will continue to follow along those pipes. Now, if I do something like delete a part, so if I delete this part here, and then I come in here and I edit this pipe, it still does it. So there are situations where I've seen, if you edit the alignment, if I come in here and I edit the alignment, like for example, I want this alignment to maybe start up here, give myself a little bit more room on the profile view, I'll get this. It basically says, hey, you're editing an alignment that you created based off of this pipe network. It is dynamic to the pipe network. If you edit the alignment directly, you're going to lose the link between the two of them. So that's what this is telling us here. So if I say yes to that, and now I come over here, and I edit this fitting, you'll see the alignment no longer follows along the pipe network. So those are some things. Now, a couple of new things in Civil 3D 2014 that we didn't have in 2013. This is something I think is important to understand. The big one, in my opinion, this actually makes pressure networks usable in a design intent. We now have data references for pressure networks in Civil 3D 2014. Yay! So that's one of the big new things in 2014. I'm not sure why it wasn't in 13, but if you're using pressure networks and you're in 13, I highly recommend going to 14 because you can now do this. And by the way, another thing, Civil 3D 2014 and 2013 are compatible, so they are backwards compatible. This is one area where you have to be careful. If you create a pressure network data reference in Civil 3D 2014, 2013 doesn't have pressure network references, so it's not going to be able to maintain that reference. All right, so I'd like to open it up to any other questions anybody has. I usually have a question slide up here, but I decided not to go with that. So if anybody else has any questions.
There's another one from Mark. You want me to read it?
Sure.
How would you go about extending a network pipe first and then alignment?
Yeah, so how would I go about extending a network pipe? Yeah, so basically what I would do, let me get this back so it's linked up again. So if I wanted to extend the pipe, I could just grab the pipe and I can extend the pipe itself. And then the alignment goes along for the ride. So hopefully that answered your question.
In 2014, can you create the pressure network via feature line?
Ooh, in 2014, can you create a pressure network via feature line? There is an option in Civil 3D 2014 where you can create a pressure network from object. Now, I personally haven't tried this yet, but it's there. So as you can see in a little tooltip, you can create it from feature lines.
Any external analysis software like HydroFlow?
So Christopher asks, is there any external analysis? Can you do the water pressure analysis? What's the loss between the fittings and the bends and all that fun stuff? No, there isn't. Currently, there's not. When Autodesk purchased Boss International, they got several things. They got StormNet, which became Storm and Sanitary Analysis. They got the River CAD, which became the River Analysis that's now available if you have the Ultimate Suite. And they also had WaterNet. We haven't seen anything from WaterNet yet. When? I have no idea. So hopefully someday we'll get some sort of a pressure analysis tool, but right now we don't. And of course, Mr. Tomasi's telling me to try it. So let me try it. Now, one thing to note, you can't add to a network from object. You can only create a network from object. So I'll just draw a polyline. I want this to follow, I don't know, along there. Make this a feature line, create feature line from objects, water, whatever. And elevations. I want to do it from the surface, insert intermediate. I don't know what I'm doing here. We'll go ahead and weed this thing out now. There it is. Weed the points. I'll be pretty aggressive here. Horizontal angle, it doesn't matter. The grade will say 3%. Length will be 500 feet. So there's my pipes. Again, I'm making something up here. Actually, let me do something else. I'll do length of 18 feet now. That worked well, didn't it? Yeah, maybe not. Okay.
You tried it.
Let me just get rid of some of these in here. Just to make my life a little bit easier. All right, that's cool. Let's do this a try. Pipe network. Create pressure network from object. Select the object. Direction, I guess, is fine. Elevation reference, depth of cover, 3 feet. I can use the elevation of the vertex, so I want this to lie on the ground. So I'm going to do the bottom of the pipe. And I'm going to use 6-inch pipe, and I'm going to use that water parts list. There you go. What's in my fittings? What's in vertical bends where I've ever had vertices. Let me try this here real quick. See what it looks like. Select it. Let's do this one more. Let's grab the surface as well. So that's close. Like I said, I deleted all those vertices through there, but there you go.
Very cool. Another question. Daniel.
Yes.
How do you change the style from duct iron to PVC or other materials?
How do you add new materials to your parts list is basically the question, because if you remember when I was doing this, the only option I had was ductile iron pipe. If you go to Windows Explorer, and you might want to jot this down, C drive, program data. So I'm assuming everybody here is on Windows 7. If you're not on Windows 7, you should be. Autodesk. C3D 2014. Hope I'm going to the right place. Nope, I'm going to the wrong place. Program files. Autodesk. Autodesk AutoCAD Civil 3D 2014. Go figure that one out. Sample. Civil 3D API, Part Publishing Wizard. In here, there's a Word document, the Part Publishing Wizard User's Guide. This is where this will walk you through the process of adding additional parts to your pipe network. Basically, what you end up doing is going into the program. So I'm going through Windows Start menu here, Civil 3D 2014, in here somewhere. Autodesk AutoCAD Civil 3D 2014. There is the Autodesk the Content Catalog Editor. This allows you to manage your pressure network parts. So I'm going to open up that SQLite database, which is what these are in now. So the one I was using was the push-on. And then I would add, import a part without a content file. If you do the content file, that's the bends, the T's, the PRVs, the whatever it is that you want to add in. I'm going to do it without a content file. That's a pipe. So the industry would be water, part type would be pipe, part family would be PVC. Interesting. Material properties, put in whatever you want, and it allows you to create your own pipes. So if you really want to, you could even create one for concrete asbestos. There's all sorts of different materials you can choose from here. Nope, concrete asbestos isn't one of them. So hopefully that helps you out. All right, any other questions before we call this webinar done? All right, we're not done with questions, so if anybody has any questions, I'm just going to throw this up here for now. We are all over the place, right? CAD-1, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. I also have my own personal Twitter account, so if you want to follow me, that's C3D+. If you want to follow CAD-1, it's CAD_1. I also have my own blog. I post up a lot of fun stuff there, civil3dplus.wordpress.com. So thank you, everybody. Doesn't look like we have any more questions. So we'll go ahead and call this webinar wrapped. Thank you, everybody, for coming in and attending.